Kral Space. I'm Kim Kral. I am coming to you not live from my closet. Hi, everybody. Hi. I am not feeling very well. I haven't been feeling well since I got my booster shot and flu shot last week. And then I had some wine on Sunday. Had a really good time, but had some wine. And I thought Monday, I was like, man, this hangover is just really crazy. But I was really sick on Friday, Saturday. Didn't feel great on Sunday. I thought it was just my period. I don't know, man. But then, yeah, I just got a message from someone that I was hanging out with on Sunday, and she has COVID. So I'm getting tested tomorrow, which is awesome. So awesome. I don't know if haha funny is the correct wording for it, but it'd be real fucked up if I got COVID 1 year, almost to the day. I tested positive a year ago on the 14th, so in a few days. So it'd be real fucked up if a year later, I get COVID again. I just don't feel great, but I don't know. But I haven't felt great before which may not be good news either. Maybe I gave her COVID. I'm just kidding. I mean, I have 3 vaccination shots. This will be a real testament to how the vaccine's working. Or I just feel under the weather. I don't fucking know. I went to the store and 2 people had no masks on and 2 people no masks on. Like I was like walking through. Okay, so I was walking through and the first guy I saw without a mask, and then I kind of like double took because I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck? And then when I double looked, he turned and was turning to check me out. So I caught him checking me out. And I was like, ew, so you're an asshole and you're gross. Like turned around and was like doing the like looking me up and down thing. And it was just like, get out of here. But I was like kind of scared for a minute because we made eye contact. I was like, fuck, is it one of those guys that like is gonna like run after me and yell? You know how there's people that are anti-maskers and then they'll just like chase you in the store for wearing a mask. That hasn't happened. I haven't seen that yet, but I guess I know a guy who does that. He's some comedian who I guess that's like his favorite TikTok pastime is he like goes into stores without a mask on and like harasses people with a mask. Like no one is looking. I said it before last year, but like I'm going to say it again. Like no one is looking at that guy going, man, look at him. He's such a free thinker. He doesn't let anybody tell him what to do with his body. It's like, ew, you're gross. You're an asshole. I know everything I need to know about you. Just like confidently walking around the store. Just so. And I asked the trader, and then I was at the Trader Joe in the line, and I asked the cashier and the bagger guy, I was like, do you guys get that? And they're like, I mean, it's the law to be wearing the mask. Like it's like the mandates in this county. And it's Trader Joe's policy to wear a mask, but they don't police it because it's like for their safety probably. And then I saw another guy walk in. I'm like, yeah, another dude just walked in without a mask. They go, yeah, it happens sometimes. Can you just imagine being that person? Just imagine, oh man, just like being like, man, no one's going to tell me what I'm going to do with my body. And you know, for sure, those people are the ones that are like, abortion's murder. Like they don't understand the correlation between like my body, my choice. And they're like, it's like, that's not, oh man. And then I was out at my store, or my store. I was out at my car putting my grocery bags away. And one of the guys not the one who checked me out, but the second guy comes down and he is in like the sad penis truck, you know, those massive trucks that dudes have. And you're just like, oh, I bet that guy has a huge penis. And I was like, oh, I know everything I need to know about you. I don't put that down. Like, I know I have a lot of family members who have really big trucks, but they live in like snow weather or they're farmers. But like having a massive truck in Los Angeles, I know everything I need to know about you. And I do have a couple friends that I know that have massive trucks. And you know what? I fucking stand by what I said. I said what I said. But yeah, the second no mask guy came down with one of those fucking idiotic pickup trucks to have in the fucking city. And I was like, oh God, I know everything I need to know about you. It's wild that that's still happening. It's just wild, man. It's so wild. It's wild. I forgot to tell you guys I forgot to tell when I was talking about the raves, I got, caught up in talking about all my ecstasy stuff last week. I forgot to tell you about the dude I bartended next to during this rave. Not the attractive one who we had like a friendship. It's so funny. I text him about he there's this Russian guy. I think he's a Russian guy. I don't know. You guys, he's like a pop culture thing right now, so you guys probably know who he is more than I do, but he looks like a little kid. He has like a syndrome that makes him look like a 4-year-old little kid, but he's like 19. And so he makes these videos where he fights this other guy who has the same syndrome, and they like fist fight, and the internet goes wild because they're like adult men, but they look like 4-year-olds because they have a syndrome. I have no idea, but this and so I sent him the attractive guy that I bartended next to the first day. We exchanged numbers, and I was like, oh, here, I just sent him that. I was like, man, now I see this guy everywhere. I'd never seen him before, but now I see him fucking everywhere. Isn't that funny how it works? And he read it and he didn't respond. And it's just, the last day we were all bartending, we were standing and we were talking, and this other guy was like, like me and the hot guy were standing next to each other. And by the way, he wasn't like that. He wasn't like crazy hot. He was just like a good looking guy that I was getting along with. And so he and I were like talking, and another guy comes over and he's like, well, yeah, dude. Well, obviously, like Kim has a massive crush on you. And then the moderately good looking guy goes, yeah, I know. And I'm like, what? No, what? Get over yourself, fellas. Like, it's just like, and now he's like not responding to that text. And then there's another event that I wanted to ask him about, and we'll see if he responds to that text. But it's just so funny. Like, I've noticed this since I was like in high school. Like, if a girl is nice to a dude and he's like, oh, she wants me. It's like, no, we're just nice. Sometimes people are just nice. They don't want to fuck you. They're just nice. So not the moderate. Now I change it from a hot guy to moderately good looking guy. Like, yeah, he was a good looking dude, but like, no, I'm not. Also, he lives in like Riverdale or something. Riverside? I don't fucking know. He lives far. He lives near San Bernardino. No one's got time for that shit. So like, and I don't know. It just annoys me. It's like there's an SNL sketch years ago where a girl walked up to a guy who was sitting at a bar, and there's an empty bar stool next to him, and she's like, excuse me, are you using this stool? And he's like, I have a girlfriend. And she's like, cool, is your girlfriend going to be sitting in this stool? Because I was going to bring it over to my table because we need another stool. And it's just so funny because that's exactly how it is. It's like, hi, can I sit here? I'm taken. It's like, all right, well, I just wanted to sit at the one open bar. It happens all the time. But the other guy that I bartended next to, I meant to tell you guys about him. I started and then I totally forgot. And then I wrote it down specifically to tell you because this guy was fucking wild, man. So we were like, he's already like, he's like definitely like a lifer. Like he definitely is going to do these raves forever. Right. He's like, I don't know. He's probably like 50 or something like that. But he was really nice. I really got along with him. I enjoy really fucking weird people. I love weird people. So we were like setting up, and we shared ice. And so I had an ice scoop that like the company provided, and he had his own ice scoop. So that had like holes in it. Cause like at some point in events, the ice gets really like soupy, like really watered down. You'll notice that if you go to events and you go later in the night, or like at some point when they're running out of ice, your drinks are more watered down. That if you're like, oh, that's why when I go to the concert, that's why my drink tastes like that. Yeah, so we do our best, but there's only so many bar backs and people that can retouch that ice. And you're like outside, and they're like in trash barrels. It's not like in an ice place, whatever. And so, but he shows me he's like, this is your ice scoop, the one that I was using. And then he goes, and this one's mine. And it was like clearly customized. This is the start of the weird day. Like, I love this shit though. Like his had a bunch of holes in it. And then on the side in holes to like, to like strain out the water later in the day. It was his initials, and he's like, those are my initials. And I was like, cool, like thinking like, I don't want to use your fucking ice scoop, man, it's fine. But he was more telling me so he could tell me he only had 4 fingers on one side, so it had his initials and then the number 4. So he's like, those are my initials. And I was like, cool. And he's like, 4 means I only got 4 fingers on my left hand side or right hand side, I don't fucking remember which one. And I was like, oh, you're missing a thumb. Cool. That's a weird way to tell someone you're missing a thumb, but all right. And I was like, oh, and I think he's used to like especially like there's no way to nice, but women that look like me be like, oh my god, what? But I'm like, no, I'm not. I was raised in a bizarre home, so it takes a lot to rattle me, sir. And I was just like, oh, how'd you lose your thumb? Were you born without it, or did something happen? When this dude was like 4 years old, he grew up on a farm. He grew up on a farm, and when he was 4 years old, he went through, those plows that like lift up the like dirt, the ground, like they like plow out the whatever. He went through one of those. And I was like, holy shit, at 3 years old. And he lost his thumb, his ear, and broke both his arms. Now they were able to reattach the ear, but in 1979, when it happened, he goes, 1979, it happened. God, that guy's not that much older than me. That's horrifying. 1979, when that happened, like a I don't know if it's just like a thumb or a finger or a limb, but they weren't able. I think it was like anything that was cut off of a child. They were unable to reattach it to a child, reattach it back on the child. He said it much more eloquently, but like, yeah. So like a kid before 1979, if they lost like a thumb, like this guy, or like another like appendager, I guess, I don't know. They were able to reattach his ear, but they weren't able to do it. And then he goes, but in 1980, they figured it out. I went through that plow 1 year early, too early. And I was like, Jesus Christ. And then I was like, well, how did they figure it out? Because I was like, I love people like there's like most of the time people are like, oh God, don't engage with this guy. Guys like that, I'm like, tell me more, sir. Not always. Sometimes I'm like, I don't, whatever you've got going on, I'm not interested in whatever weirdness this is. But he happened to get me on a day that I was like, I would like to know everything about you, sir. You fucking delightful weirdo. And so I was like, well, how did they figure out how to do it? And I guess leeches, maybe that's common knowledge that they just put the thumb back where it's supposed to be and then put the leeches on it. And then the leeches like suck it all together. I don't know. He explained it a lot more eloquently than I'm able to right now. But yeah. And then he was like, well, you're talking about our childhoods. And he asked me about my parents. And I was just like, oh, I don't know. I keep telling people my mom's dead. She's not dead. I just don't, it's just much quicker of an explanation. Cause if you're like, oh, they're like, what'd your mom do? And I'm like, I don't know. Last I heard, she was working in a Home Depot after getting out of jail for stealing a diamond from a guy named Grizzly that she did meth with. I think I've already told you guys that, but I'm like, it's just like a long, weird story that I'm just like, it's easier just to be like, she's no longer with us. I haven't seen her in 10 years, maybe longer. I actually don't remember the last time I saw her. We talked on the phone a little bit right after my dad died, but I don't know. We haven't really had. It's a long story. I still work through that, but because it makes me sad. We're talking about our parents, and then I was like, "What about your parents?" And he was like, "Oh, my dad was murdered." I was like, "Of course, your fucking dad was murdered. How was your dad murdered? What happens?" And he's like, "Okay, so this is wild." So back, I guess like, back in the early 80s, they didn't have those rear view mirror cameras at ATMs. They just weren't there. And one day his dad was going to cash a $20 check. That's all the money he had to his name in the world. And his boss was standing in front of him and he was like, bye, John, see you at work. And the guy was like, bye, guy, see you at work. And he leaves. And then these two robbers were behind this dude's dad with a shotgun going to rob the dad. And because those rear view mirrors weren't there, the dad didn't see anything. And the guy didn't do anything except blow this guy's dad's head off. Like, wasn't like, yo, do you have any money? Just walked right up to him and loaded his shotgun and blew through the guy's head and did it all for $20. And then that was Bank of America. So because of that murder, they decided to put fucking the rear view mirrors in, and then all the other banks followed suit. And I was like, oh, because of that specific murder? Or like, he goes, yeah, because of my dad. And I was like, there wasn't a bunch. And he goes, no, it was literally, that was the one like legislature passed or some shit like that. Wild, right? So I bartended next to that guy for a few days. And there's another rave coming up in a couple of weeks that I've just been asked to work. That's what I was texting the moderately handsome guy about. I hope he doesn't listen to this. Maybe I doubt it. But I asked him about it because like the weird guy with the four fingers, um, he was like, "Oh, that event is really rough. Like you'll make money, but it's like you have to wear like long johns and shit. You got to wear long johns and have like heat warmers in your shoes and in your hands because it's so cold." And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to do that." And it's right before I go to fucking Maryland for a week. And so I don't want to get like sick. I don't know. I decided to give myself until like Friday to decide what I was going to do. I also I'm getting tested for COVID tomorrow. So I am going to wait to see if my test results come back positive. I highly doubt it. Again, a year ago this week, the 14th, it'll be a weird anniversary for me always, just because um, I mean, and I know I had it for like a week prior to it. And then this week is a big weird anniversary week for me. I also 4 years ago, I did my one woman show at Flappers. It was the first time my name has been on the marquee of a comedy club. And I did my first hour, which was a one woman show. And Whitney Melton, my buddy, hosted it, and it was so cool. And I have it recorded, and I keep meaning to put it. I know Patreon subscribers, I promise you, before the end of the year, I will get everything all squared away. I promise. I so appreciate your Patreonism, your subscription. I don't know what it is, but I so appreciate it. And I don't want you to think I don't. I've just been I've been MIA the last week or so, and I'm a one woman shop. Like I say every week, which isn't really an excuse, but I will get it all done. But one of the bonus things, if you're a Patreon subscriber, is you get my stand-up comedy, which I have 2 locked and loaded, and then I'll get this one woman show up. I don't know if anybody is interested in seeing it, but it was a year ago, and it's mostly the first half is about my dead dad and the Denver Broncos, and then the second half is about my dating life. And so I don't know. It was a lot of fun. A lot of people showed up. It was really cool. It was funny though. There's these 2 girls, 2 women that are no longer in my life. One is like a hard out, the bride. I told you guys about her a while ago. She's a hard out. Like she's gone. Like where I had like a text that was like, "Yo, girl, have a good life, but I do not want you in mine," right? And the other one is just not somebody I'm not close to anymore, and she's just sort of she's just not my kind of people. But it was so funny because at that one woman show, we were recording it, and it was my first hour, and these 2 women, actually the one that is a hard out, I didn't even think about her, but this other woman, she has a tendency to sort of make everything about her. She's sort of that audience member that will sit for comics or people who've been to a comedy show. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you might be that person. This is like, comedy shows aren't interactive. Like if we ask you a question, like if we specifically ask you a question, or like, yeah, that's pretty much it. Other than that, just laugh and shut the fuck up. But so many people, you'll be like, "I'm from Colorado." "Oh my God, I'm from Colorado." And you're like, "Cool. So anyway," and so this one girl, every time we'd go anywhere, that's kind of what she would do to the comic. And I was like, "Stop doing that. It's so embarrassing. You're fucking up their flow. This isn't about you." So I was like, "How?" And she definitely was going to come. And I was like, "How do I get around this?" And my buddy Whitney, we were talking, and he was like, "I'll just make like a blanket statement at the beginning that was like, 'Hi, so Kim's recording this, so we know we're all really excited to see Kim, but just enjoy the show, laugh. There's no need to just randomly shout out stuff. If you Oh, it's you. Okay. I have the door shut today because the fan is on and I'm really cold. So I shut the door to not get cold. And then you know how when I used to shut the door all the time, I was afraid of, well, Darth Vader coming into my room. I'm afraid of Darth Vader. And if you're not, that's weird. Like, I know Darth Vader's a fictional character, but he is one of the scarier fictional characters. Like Freddy Krueger, not really. But Darth Vader is fucking cutthroat, dude. He cut his own kid's hand off. Like, no thoughts at all. Just did it. Just fucking did it. And then once he decided to go back with his friend, he has no allegiance, that guy. None. Once he decided to go with his family, he threw his master down like a pit of space. And he's also able to move your throat closed and opened with his mind. Darth Vader's horrifying. I don't know why not everyone's afraid of him. Oh my God, but it's just my cat just looking in the closet going, what is that noise? So yeah, so Whitney made the announcement, and I don't know if this is interesting. This is sort of behind the scenes of like what people made the announcement. It was just like, hey everyone, this is being recorded. So, the nice, polite way to be like, don't talk to Kim while she's on stage, right? Like you think that. So I was talking to my buddy beforehand, and then I was sitting with him during Whitney's spot. Whitney opened with 15 minutes, and I was sitting next to him, and then he points to the bride who I hard kicked out of my life, because the whole time Whitney was on stage, she needed to say something. Like she was like an adult woman was like holding her hand over her mouth, like she couldn't bear not to talk any longer. And my buddy was like, "Is that who that announcement was for?" And I was like, "Actually, it's the quiet one in the front." But that broad, I don't know, she was respectful, but man. And then before that, the bride came up to me before the show, and she goes, "Oh no, was it after the show?" She goes, "Oh wow, I think that's the longest you've ever talked without me interrupting." And I was like, "Yeah, we had to make an announcement because I could tell you would be the person that would do that." And she was like, "It was really hard for me to sit there for an hour and not make something about me. This is why this woman was hard kicked out of my life, was like, no more friendship for you and me. You are not." Oh man, she would do that to people. Like you'd introduce her to people, and she would just like yell at them, like bark at them for like 20 minutes while the person would try and like have a conversation, but she would just bark, and it was so embarrassing. I'm so happy that broad's out of my life. But yeah, like, so it's just so weird looking back. So that was 4 years ago. And then 6 years ago, I sharded outside the Improv. I think I've told you guys this story before, maybe even recently, but I'm going to tell it again. This is the poop scoop. Again, I have until this moment, I will get into why this is so late today, and I'm sort of been down for the count the last few days. So I didn't prepare too much to come in here. I just wrote like a few things. It was like, oh, okay, we'll talk about that. I'm not feeling really great, and my cousin ended up passing away on Sunday. And I'm having a really hard time processing it, just a really hard time. And I think we'll get into it some. I don't know if this will be an hour today. This may be a short one today, guys. I have a pounding headache, which sort of freaks me out a little bit over the whole I might have COVID again thing. I know one girl who has long haul COVID and is double vaxxed, and she got it again. So I'm just like, please. But she also only had it for like 2 weeks. So if I do have it, please just let it only be for 2 weeks, not compound. I'm still having fucking symptoms from the first time. But yeah, so I've been struggling a little bit the last few days. I'll get into it in the end, but in the end. So 6 years ago today, I sharded outside the Improv. Now, this story, it's so funny. So I was meeting this girl to do lab work, which was a Sunday night mic. Actually hosted by my old co-host at Dash Comedy, Ken Gar. We were meeting there to do the show, and I wasn't hosting the show with Ken yet. We were just, friends. And I had to get a tip. Like I was like parking my car, and I thought I had to fart, but I couldn't get my credit card to, like, sometimes it takes a while for the meter to accept your card. And then, but I've also, so years ago, this is a thing you all should know about. So years ago, my buddy was at my bar. I was working in Big Wangs in Hollywood, and my buddy Mark was there all day with his buddy, right? His other friend. And all day they're having a great time, like 6 hours, maybe not 6 hours, but yeah, like 6 hours, having a great time, right? And maybe not 6 hours, but a long fucking time. They're having a great time. And then it's time for their bill. So he closes out and his card declines. And he's like, fuck, oh, that's bad. And I never shame anybody for having their card decline, because I worked at a bank for a long time. I don't know if I'm sure I've told you guys that. I was a sales liability rep at ING Direct, which is so bizarre because it was a whole other lifetime ago, and a whole other Kim Kral ago. But yeah, so I worked at a bank, and I just know there's 6 trillion reasons a bank will cancel your card or put a hold on your card that have nothing to do with the funds in your account. But it's so funny. Anytime a guy's card declines in front of you, I dated a guy years ago who his card declined in front of me on like a date. And he like flipped out and he was like, I have $10,000 in my checking account. I was like, that's bad. Like that's great that you have that much money in your in your person, but that that just shows that you have bad investment skills. Like you shouldn't be keeping 10 grand in your fucking checking account. But and so this guy's card declined at the bar, and I was just like, oh, I'm sure what. And so he called the bank, and of course it was like because there was it's usually an obscure charge, or you spent more money somewhere than you normally did, or you did something different than you normally do, right? But they have there's like a machine that monitors that shit. And so he was like, oh fuck, okay. And then he goes, what if I paid my meter with this card? So he runs out to check his meter, and he got a ticket. And so and because most people don't wait for the meter to accept their card, because it's like what, like $1.50. So you're like, I have $1.50 in my account, I don't have to worry about it. Always wait until your meter goes, yep, it's been accepted. Here is the amount of time on your meter, because sometimes your bank will put a hold on your card and you won't wait for that, and it'll decline, and then you'll get a $70 ticket or a $90 ticket depending on what part of Los Angeles you are in. And so I was at the Improv, and I parked, and I was waiting for that accept sign, right? And I was like, fuck. I'm like, I don't want to get a ticket. Do I want to poop my pants, or do I want to get a ticket? And I was like, it's probably just a fart, but I don't know if it is or not. And it was like a conscious decision to like poop my pants and not get a ticket. That's how much I didn't want to pay the $90 for the ticket, because I was in the $90 part of town, and I was like, nope, we'll poop our pants. So I get there, and I was meeting this girl, and I think I'm positive of whatever. I'll tell it again. I'm meeting this girl, and I don't know why. This woman was very lovely. I mean, I don't have anything bad to say about her at all. It was just confusing why she wanted to be my friend so bad. Like, this woman didn't drink, didn't smoke, and I smoked like a chimney at this point, right? She didn't drink, she didn't smoke, she never wore pants, she even had house dresses, like she only wore dresses and skirts. And we were like, I was like, a vulgar, drunk, chain smoking, pants wearing machine. I don't know, the pants part is kind of weird, but like I was just like the opposite of her in every way, but she wanted to be my friend so bad. This was actually, I think, the last time we hung out. I guess sharding did the trick to get her to be like, I don't think we should be friends. So I text her, and I'm like, yo, girl, I just sharded. So I'm gonna go and clean up, and I'm gonna be like 10 minutes late. And she's like, oh my God. Oh my God. And I went into the bathroom, and I took off my underwear, and I put the pair of underwear at the bottom of the trash can. As I've shared many times here and many times on stage, that is not the first or the last time I will put a pair of my underwear at the bottom of a trash can. I love, there was an SNL sketch a couple weeks ago where they said that, put it at the bottom of the trash can. I was like, hey, I do that too. If you poop or pee your pants, you definitely aren't putting it at the top of the trash can, right? You don't want anybody to see that. And then I at those days I carried wet wipes with me, like wet wipes like for your vagina, not wet wipes for your hands. And so I just like cleaned myself off, and then I cleaned. It didn't get in the pants, just got in the underwear, and I cleaned up and put my pants back on, and went out to meet the girl who only wore house dresses. And I was like, oh man, I'm so sorry. I just love that I acted like it was just a normal thing to do. Like junior high, my best friend, Aspen, I went over to her house for the first time, and she had this elaborate doll thing set up, and we were like 13. She was like 14. I was 13. And she was like, oh, those are my little cousins. They're for sure not mine. They're definitely not mine. And I was like, oh man, too bad. I would totally go for playing with some dolls right now. So I've always just been like, yeah, own it. Whoever you are, own it. Play dolls, own it. You know what I mean? Poop your pants outside of that Improv, own it. And so I was just like, man, I'm so sorry about that. I can't believe that happened. And she was like, I can't believe you're here, and I can't believe you told me that. I would go home and never tell a soul. She was so appalled. And I was like, oh, I'm probably going to go into that building and pick up a microphone and tell everybody. I think the mic was actually canceled that night, or we didn't get called. I didn't go up that night, but oh man, it was really funny. So that happened 6 years ago. today or this week, 6 years ago this week. I wish I could say that was the first or the last time I sharded. I don't know when that might have been the last time I've sharded. I don't know. It's been a while since I've had that. No, that's a lie. Last week when I was kind of sick, I sharded a little bit. Sorry to have lied to you guys and didn't open with that. But I was home and I was just like, I was like sick. I've been sick for like a little bit. God damn it. The more I'm talking, the more I'm like, did I give that girl COVID? I doubt it. Like I'm triple vaxxed and I had it. And I also wear my mask everywhere. I'm pretty good about wearing the mask. Fuck. Well, I'll keep you guys updated. So exciting. I guess at this point, I'm just more worried about giving it to other people, but than I would be about myself. I don't know. But anyway, I sharded last week after I got the flu and the COVID shot. I was really sick and I got really bad. I got the poops really bad and I thought they were done and I pooped my pants a little bit. I don't know if it's a little bit more embarrassing that I was home when this took place. I also am like terrified that a dude that I'm attracted to will listen to this. Not the moderately good looking guy from the rave. That annoys me so much. It's like, so I can't be nice to you without you being like, oh my God, ask for my number already. Like, and maybe I'm just reading into it. Maybe he forgot to text me back. I don't know. I don't think so. In my experience, he probably thinks that, man, that broad wants me so much. I don't, sir. I do not. It's more of a geographical thing, or also how cocky you got about whatever. Anyway, no, there's I saw this guy on Sunday, and who I have had a crush on for years. I'm talking like maybe a decade. He is so good looking and so nice, and we ended up at the same place for a little bit. And we're neighbors. And the last time I saw this guy, I think it was mid-pandemic, and I just rolled out of bed, and no, it wasn't. It was before the pandemic because I didn't have the luxury of having a mask on while this was happening. I rolled out of bed to get tampons or cat food. It was like something I needed that morning. And so I just rolled out of bed and didn't brush my teeth, didn't put on deodorant, didn't put on a bra, just went straight down to that CVS, which, like, you'd think I'd learned my lesson. Every time I go to that CVS with no bra, no makeup, no brush, like the smelliest I can be, I run into someone like this hot dude. And I saw him and he's like, Kim? And I'm like, oh no, hello. This is great. Hi. And I'm like beet red. I'm trying not to talk too closely to him because I haven't brushed my teeth. He hugs me and I'm like, oh my God, I have no deodorant on. I probably smell horrible. And then of course he talks to me for a really long time and I'm just like, get out of here. We'll see you later. So I saw him on Sunday. It turns out we're neighbors. I'm terrified he'll listen to this. I doubt he will. If he does, hey, I'll be texting you for that. But I saw, and turns out we're neighbors, and we were like, oh, we should go on a walk or something. And he goes, yeah. And I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was definitely like, oh, I would like to go on a walk more than friends, but I can't remember the exact, but I went, oh, and then I got so uncomfortable. I was like, oh, really? And he winks and he goes, 100%. I would love that. And then he like held my hand for a while and I was just like pouring sweat, beet red. And now I'm beet red talking about this. And I'm like, oh, that's a disaster. I can't call that guy at all. He's like, I've had a crush on him for a decade. That's so scary. That's so scary. I will. I just have to make sure. Well, I have to make sure I don't have COVID. If I have COVID, I'll have to text him and be like, hey, we saw each other when I was exposed. Maybe you have it too. Maybe we could just like go on a COVID walk together because we both have it, you know? I don't know. It's just so funny to me how like, I mean, I know this. I wrote this in my book too. Like I date unavailable men and men that aren't great for me because I know the score. I know like men that are like not in my league, like below my league. We're on different levels. That sound better. Because I know the score. I understand that like what will happen, like the Jimmy the Dragons of the world. I understand. I'm terrified of running into that guy. Not terrified, like I have feelings for him. It's just I don't want to at all. I think I would just pretend I didn't know him. I think that's the move, right? I have a funny story about that in a minute, but one of the best ex revenges ever. It's one of my favorite stories of all time. So 100%, I told it like 40 episodes ago, but I'm going to do it again. But like, I knew the score with that, right? Like that guy was a loser that like, had no ambition, wasn't good to me, wasn't good to very many people, had a drug problem. The score on that. I know that guy's going to hurt me and break my heart. That's not scary. Getting your heart broken is not scary. What's scary is real intimacy, real, like actually like getting to know a good person and like actually like leaning on each other and like trusting each other and like true intimacy. That horrifies the shit out of me. That's why I picked the Jimmy the Dragons of the world or the lunch dumps of the world, because then I can be like, oh, he broke my heart and I'm so sad. And I get to be all victimy and shit. But like, truthfully, it's like that is much easier to do than it is to like message this guy and go on a fucking walk. That seems horrifying. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, no, I'll just throw my phone in the river. I don't know where close by river is. And I don't know why my phone needs to be destroyed in this scenario. That's how freaked out I get by that. So more on that. Let's just make sure I don't have COVID. I doubt I do. Right? I don't know, man. And I also know that like when you you've been exposed, your brain is like, ooh, your chest hurts. But the problem is I already have COVID symptoms all of the time and have for like a year. And I get super triggered about that because people will make comments about it. Like people are, I get people who have chronic illnesses now because I've been sick for a year, and like just how very dismissive people are about that, or how they're like, oh my God, I have that weird, like not being able to smell anything too. And it's like, do you, Brandy? Do you? Are you really not able to smell anything or everything at the same time? And I get so triggered by it because I have been sick for a year. And so I don't know. I know the last two times I got the last two COVID shots I got, it took me down for a couple of weeks, and it like brought me back to I'm like back to square one with COVID. So I think that's what's happening here. Like that, like the first shot, people were like, oh my God, we hear in long haulers, it's making them feel better. It didn't do that for me. And then the second one, they were like, that'll make for like a half hour, one afternoon, I felt like $1 billion. And then I was down for the count and my breathing was really fucked up again. And so I'm assuming that's what's happening now. Me and all of COVID stuff just don't mix. My body is like, oh my God, we're going to shut down. But when I test negative tomorrow, I will text this guy to see if he wants to go for a walk. What if he doesn't? What if he's changed his mind? The whole thing is a nightmare. We should just throw our phone in the river and change our name, move away, change our name. The best ex revenge story I have ever heard freaks me out with my cat. Like my cats, they're like watchdogs. Like they don't bark when people come, but they both sit up and run to the door. Well, one darts under the bed and the other one runs to the door. And I'm like, oh my God, who's outside? Who's that guy? So my buddy was dating this terrible woman. This guy is my best friend of 20 years, right? Dating this terrible woman. God, I hated this lady. Hated this lady before I found out she was a raging racist. She was just like every like anytime he would call me and be like, hey, Shar, I'm gonna use her name. I won't put out his name out there, but Shar is, because I don't give a fuck about this broad. She's a bad person. He'd be like, oh, we're on our way, and I'd be like, cool. I just got done getting ready. He's like, oh, okay. Shar wants to make sure that you don't have a lot of makeup on, or like you don't look too pretty. And I'm like, what? And he's like, I don't know. She just said that she doesn't look great and she doesn't want you to look great too. Like she was one of those women. And I was like, all right, well, tell Shar I'm probably not going to change or take off any makeup. So I'm probably just going to come out, and I'm not really one to wear a shitload of makeup. So I'm probably just going to wear what I'm wearing when I come out. Right. Or like we'd take a picture and she'd be like, we have to retake the picture. My arm is bigger than Kim's. And it's like, well, no matter how many pictures we take, your arm is just bigger than like that. Like physically, like literally it's bigger than mine. Like there's not anything we're going to be able to do. So we're going to be taking pictures until the cows come home. And we'll take pictures of the cows because I don't know what that means, but it's just like, she was just like that woman that like everything you couldn't, I don't know. She sucked. And then one night they came into LA. And you could tell my buddy was like tired of her all day, right? Because he like just sat at the end of the table and sipped his scotch and just like looked out into sunset and just like was in his own world, while she looked at me and said some of the most racist shit I've ever heard in my life. And I was just like, mouth on the ground, like, what the fuck? And I was like, fuck, if he marries her, I'm gonna know this bitch till I'm dead. So I'm trying not to like flip out at her and be like, you racist motherfucker. But I'm like, oh, I don't have that experience with that group of people. I don't really believe in that sort of thing. What? That's a weird, horrifying thing that you just said now. Like, doing my best to not flip out at her. And then like a couple of weeks later, he breaks up with her, right? And I was like, I have a question. He goes, oh yeah, the racism was the main reason why I broke up with her. It was awful. And I was like, oh, thank God. So the best revenge, and I know he broke up with her, but it's still, um, oh man, I, the moderately good looking guy from the rave just responded to me. So maybe just delete everything I just said about how I was like, get over yourself, dude. I'm not into you. He probably still thinks I am, because he did say it. He's like, I know she has a crush on me. I don't, buddy. I don't. But so this, I know he broke up with her, but it's still like the best fucking revenge story ever. The best revenge ever. So okay, so my buddy's outside every morning, and his now wife is pregnant with her first kid, and he's out, and there's this guy that used to walk by every day that like knew him, and every day he'd be like, oh hi, and they'd shoot the shit for a little bit. And one day he comes with this random neighbor comes with a blonde girl, and my buddy's like, hey, nice to meet you. And he's like, hey, nice to see you. And she's like, yeah, nice to see you too. So how far along is your wife? I know she's pregnant. How far along is she? Are you guys excited? And my buddy was like, yeah, actually she's my fiance. She's doing pretty well. And he goes, I was really confused as to why this woman knew about my pregnant fiance, but I didn't really think much of it. And then the next day, the guy walks by and he looks at my buddy and he goes, hey, how do you know Shar? My buddy goes, how do you know Shar? He goes, well, that was the woman that was with me yesterday. This bitch is so far off of my buddy's radar, so far off of his radar, that he had a conversation with her and he didn't even realize it was her until it was like pointed out. He goes, oh yeah. And then it also came out that Shar was stalking my buddy's wife's Instagram. Like, she has this health wellness page. And one day she was like, hey, is Shar the name of your ex-girlfriend? And my buddy was like, yeah, why? And she's like, because she's been following and liking and commenting on all of my shit for like a year. And you don't feel bad for her. I like talking shit about her because she was a terrible human being. She was a terrible human being. But that's really good revenge. That's good ex revenge. And that's what I would like to have if I see Jimmy the Dragon, just not even know who he is. And if I do know who he is, I'm just gonna pretend I do not. Oh man, yeah. So I've been avoiding this. I actually almost skipped this week because I'm having a really rough time. My cousin passed away. I told you guys a little bit about it last week, that he had cancer and he wasn't they didn't think he was gonna last the week. And he didn't. He passed away on Sunday. And this is a hard one for me to process. I was close to him as a little kid, and he was really, really close to my dad. And I think it just hit me on Sunday, the amount of people I am going to lose and not really be able to have relationships with, and just have to like mourn without going to the funeral or without talking to their spouses or kids or anything like that. Because, well, as one of my uncles put it, the choices I made, which just makes me scream angry. Not really. I've sort of let go of the anger of it and the resentment of it all, but it's just so, I don't know what the word is, because it's not funny. It's not interesting. It's fucked up. It's horrible that what I did to my dad by cutting him out of my life. Like, it just, and I'm having a really hard time processing this death, a really hard time with it. I don't know how much more I want to say about it until I've processed it more, but I haven't been feeling well. And then I also just like sort of laid in bed the last 2 days. And today I would like to go back to my bed. My head is really pounding, so that might be part of it. But I also I'm just really sad But I have to be careful with who I am with my own mental issues. I have to stay on them pretty consistently. Like I have to stay on them, otherwise it falls apart pretty quickly. If you're one that struggles or deals with mental illness, you know that you have to do your specific things every single day, otherwise you'd fall apart. It will unravel pretty quickly. And the last 2 days I've been in bed. And yesterday I was just like, all right, I'll give myself today, and then I'll get up tomorrow and I'll do some things. And I need to do some dishes, and I cleaned out the litter. I'm doing this. I'm really, and sometimes when you just feel shitty, you just do one step at a time. You know what I mean? Like this morning I woke up and I was like, all right, first things first, just go make coffee, take your vitamins, sit down and do your little. I take care of that. I was going to lie to you and be like, read your meditation. I don't do that until I take care of this electronic farm in this little town that I built, and I've been taking care of it for like 5 years. It's like a Sims thing. I'm a part of a regatta. I feed cows. I trade goods. I have a co-op. Well, I have my own co-op, but no one will join it. So I think after this regatta, I'm going to quit the co-op and join another co-op, because you get more prizes if you complete more tasks. And so I could lie to you, but so what I'll do is I'll start my coffee, and then I'll check my farm while I do my inhaler stuff in the morning. And that is what is. But I was just like one step at a time. I'm like, and then once you get your coffee, then you'll do your writing. That's when I do my meditation shit. And it was just like one thing at a time. And that's just sort of where I'm at right now. I know I'm grieving. I know I'm unpacking a lot of stuff. Two of my cousins that I'm very close to are I've been avoiding talking to them for a few days, just because it's also, I know, like I have a hard time when I've lost a lot of people in my life, and everyone says that, oh, I'm so sorry, and then they look at you and you're just like, yeah, there's not much you can do, and I just need to process this on my own. And then this one's heavy. He was really young, and he shouldn't have died, man. It shouldn't have, like, it's just like, and I struggle with how much I want to say, because I don't want to disrespect anybody in my family. I mean, I know I already sort of do that, and I'm letting go of their opinions, and I'll never get their approval. They'll never ever approve of what I am doing. And that, like, but there was a couple of days that I went to like a dark place where I thought, maybe if I just never stood up to my dad, and maybe if I just kept being in his life and didn't, come forward with what he did, they all would still be in my life. And they wouldn't be, because I would be dead. There is no doubt in my mind I would not have survived having that man in my life for another second. It was horrible. It was horrible. It was enmeshed. It was abusive. It was scary. But there was a couple of days where I was just like, man, it's just maybe it's easier to just not do all of this work and to just allow this stuff to happen. And I know that's not true, but I also know that being honest on here is the first thing I want to always be. And if you have that, maybe you'll be like, oh, I'm not alone. Because it's fucking human. It's human to be like, maybe I shouldn't have done all that. And now I mean, now I've kind of stood up. I fell down for a little bit, and I've stood up as much as I can. My head is pounding. Um, uh, and I know that that's just not true. I just know that this is one of the hard parts. And I also know that, actually looking at your shit and, going through your familial generational trauma and dysfunction. I know I keep saying it, but like fucking Denzel Washington said, this shit ain't for the weak. And it sucks, because all my family is in Nebraska right now, celebrating his life. And I wasn't not invited. I wasn't not invited, but yeah, just no one. I don't know, and I feel like I sound really like, oh, poor me, and I don't feel that way at all. I'm just sad. I'm just sad, and I wish that things were different. I wish my dad was a lot different a whole lot of the time. Um, and I want to be the person that's like, oh, I'm really, I'm okay with the way things happened, because it made me who I am. And Most days I feel that way. Most days my story is a tough one, but it made me who I am, and I like who I am. And I've been able to help a lot of people who've been through similar situations. And I hope to help more. I hope to, fucking rip the band-aid off of this shit and we all talk about our sexual abuse because it is his shame. It's not mine. But there are days like today and the last few days that I wish a whole lot of the time it wasn't the way it was. I wish I was in Nebraska on the fairgrounds celebrating one of my favorite people. And we haven't had a relationship in 10 years. Um really even longer than that cuz he struggled with depression pretty badly, and my heart's just broken, and that's it. And I avoided talking about it on here because I didn't want to. I mean, I know I haven't ever shied away from crying on here. I just haven't processed it as much as I want to. But I don't really know how to process this one. I guess just more time, uh, just time. It's just so sad. His brother passed a couple of years ago, and it's just both 60 years old, and it's just my familial generational trauma and dysfunction is just so rampant and so real, and I'm so grateful that I'm breaking the cycle, but it is so painful and it is hard and it is isolating and lonely. It's really lonely. My voice just cracked, but yeah, it's really lonely because I don't have that nepotism or whatever, or the familial ties. And I do have cousins that I'm really close to and aunts that I'm close to, but at the end of it they don't fully get it because they didn't grow up the way I grew up. And they can try, and that's so lovely, and I'm so grateful. I have my one cousin that I got really close to once I got COVID. I'm so grateful for her because she believes me, she respects me, and I but it's I just don't know how to express how I'm feeling about this one. So I just rambled for like 7 minutes about it. Not really. I don't know if that was a ramble, but so I think I'm going to post this. I'm going to make some dinner. I'm going to go to a meeting, and then I'm going to shower and go to bed early. Talk to my cousin, go to bed early, and take things, one step at a time again tomorrow. And I know that, that's why I'm grateful that I have such a routine now with my mental illness stuff. Because when it is tough, it's easier for the habit to come through. When it's easy, I do, because I used to, like, when I was having an all right time, when things were going well, I would never do any of my mental illness stuff. And that's why when I'd fall hard, and I'd fall for a long time. And it was so hard to get back up again. And now that it's a habit to take care of myself, it's a habit. Um, I get back up a lot quicker, and I'm grateful for that. But man, this was a tough week. And hopefully I don't have COVID tomorrow, I don't think I do. I do know that the last two shots knocked me out for like a couple of weeks. Like I just don't feel well. And I also still have, COVID. So it's hard to be like, people are like, do you have symptoms? And I was like, well, I've had symptoms for a year. So yeah, but it's probably from the last one. It's probably not from the current one. Fingers crossed, right? Makes me so freaked out that we're probably going to be in this for a long time. Because it is, oh man, Aaron Rodgers. I don't even know. I don't know enough about that to comment on it, but I do know, I think he faked getting his vaccination, then got it, and now is comparing himself. I read 2 or 3 separate articles. I didn't hear it come out of his mouth, but I read articles that said that he was comparing himself to MLK. And I hope that's not true. I have not really dived into it because it's just so fucking ludicrous. But he's like, all of it's a sham. I'm not going on Fox. I'm not going on CNN. And it's like, well, bottom line, man, you put a lot of people in danger. That's more what it's about. It's not about politics. I mean, yeah, both sides have politicized COVID, which sucks because it's like actually people like me and I mean, I'm one of the lucky ones. I have access to healthcare. So it's actually poor people, poor countries. They're the ones who are really affected by this. And all we're doing is politicizing this shit. So it's just like, God, are we going to be in this forever? Yeah. The poor woman that had to tell us that she had COVID on Sunday. I just know that guilt, and my cousin had it, and everyone I know that's had it and having to like call people and tell them they have it. There's just such a weird guilt to it, and I just want that to like go away because, yeah, it's like fuck. But it's like the world's open back up. People are getting vaccinated. We're wearing masks indoors in LA. You know what I mean? Like it's like we're doing everything we can, and some people are still getting infected, and it sucks because she was just like, oh my God, I feel so guilty. And I was like, girl, I had the guilt too. Like it sucks. And like for the most part, everybody I told that I had COVID and had exposed them, they were so nice. I mean, they were like scared, but they asked questions and they're like, all right, we're going to get tested. And they were like, thank you for letting us know. But it's just, oh, fuck. Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? I think that's it. I think that is it. We'll end with I'm one lucky broad. I'm one lucky broad that I get to live in a life that I get to rest. I get to rest when I'm feeling sick. I haven't always lived that life. But right now I'm at a point in my life where I'm able to just rest for a few days, and hopefully I'll test negative tomorrow. And these are just a lot of side effects. Just sticking a EpiPen in my fucking COVID. Maybe that's what happened the last 2 times. You know what I mean? It just like EpiPenned my fucking COVID symptoms, not literally, but you know what I mean, figuratively. So I'm one lucky broad that I get to go eat a good meal and lay down and sleep. Thank you everybody for listening. Thanks for going on that little ride with me. It was a lot of fun. Cried a little bit. Yeah. And I'll talk more about all of the stuff I'm processing when I'm done processing it. It's just I'm still not on solid ground after coming home from that Denver trip, and it takes me a little bit longer, or it takes me a little while to get back on my feet after I go home. Especially now that I'm like super aware of all the shit, right? It's even harder now. Like my sponsor is like, well, you basically like lived in the belly of the beast of your trauma for like 5 days. Yeah, too many days. All right, guys, I am one lucky broad because I am home and safe, and I hope everyone's doing well. If you get a second, please rate, review, share, subscribe, all that stuff. I have a book. You can buy it. I'm out of signed copies, but I will be getting some new ones in a few weeks. So if you want to get in on that, go to kimkral.com. You just want to buy the book, you can look it up at Amazon. What is it? Amazon. Oh, I'm like, what is the name of my book? My brain is in 17,000 places. It is Confessions of a Recovering Party Girl. Fun fact, every time I write it out, I accidentally write Angry Party Girl, Confessions of an Angry Party Girl. And I don't know what the fuck that's about, but I don't know what Freudian slip that is, but it makes me laugh. And then, yeah, all these episodes are up on YouTube. Share. I have a Patreon. I will get my one woman show up for you Patreon subscribers. And I think that's it, everybody. I hope everyone's being safe, being kind. Have a good week. Bye.